in my work about 15 years ago, right around 1990, 91, I got acquainted with the work of narrative critics, working with both Old Testament and New Testament, and discovered to my total chagrin that these biblical stories, all, or not all, but they connect with each other, and they're intended to connect with each other. Frankly, when I came out of seminary, what I learned about exegesis was the whole, say, Gospel of Mark was just these little snippets of information. They could have been put in there anyway. It didn't matter. You just preach on the little snippet. So, and I think that's been our assumption, because we will take a little snippet of a text and preach on it as if the rest of Mark didn't exist. The outcome of that has been that I have written commentaries on Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and they are narrative commentaries, trying to show people that the story given for today in a given pericope, you could yoke that with this one in chapter 8. This one in chapter 12 also has nuances there. That could be the bulk of your sermon. Tell those 3 Bible stories. I sometimes say to groups that it's almost embarrassing in a way to go through all the school I've gone through and pile up degrees. And so I come to the end of my days and I tell people to tell Bible stories. But I do. And I think we have no idea how powerful those biblical stories are in and of themselves. And they are far more important. The story is far more important than the points we decide we want to make about them. Actually, where I learned that, I have to be honest about that, was in the network of biblical storytellers, where they memorize big chunks of scripture. So I sat and listened to the whole Gospel of Mark one night. I was just I was overwhelmed. Never in my life had the Gospel of Mark meant so much to me. And as I listened and listened, and I realized in our preaching, if we can have these stories come alive, we don't need much else. The network of biblical storytellers, NOBS, N-O-B-S is what it's called, is an organization, exists in this country and abroad. And it's fundamentally an organization which is intent on memorizing and retelling biblical stories. So you go to their annual convention and you're hearing people, there's some lectures, but also you're hearing people recite Bible passages over and over and over, different kind of passages. I went to a workshop with the man who was behind all this. His name is Tom Boomershine. And I have to confess to you that time changed my life. It changed my life because I had never before experienced the raw power of biblical stories. Our assignment for the last night, there were about 25 of us, was we each had to share one story, memorized, and tell it to the group. We sat outside in a big circle, and we got up one after the other and told a Bible story. That was one of the most phenomenal spiritual experiences of my entire existence. And I still don't know why, but those stories just penetrated. And it was like being bathed in grace. It was a phenomenal experience. So, I experienced it experientially, that these stories have such power in and of themselves. I said to you earlier, that the story is almost always more important than the points we want to make about it. Garrison Keillor has a cute line. He talks about when sermons get boring. He says they get boring when the preacher takes the story, sets it in a corner, and gives you a lecture on what it means. He's right.